ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Brought to you by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Local then, local now. Member FDIC.
It is Tuesday, June 16th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. You can join the program by calling the Miller Lite phone lines. How do you do that? Well, it's real simple. It's 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. Miller Lite, our sponsor this hour. We appreciate them for bringing us our phone lines. So today, we found out the basketball tournament pairings. It was sort of like Selection Sunday because we don't have basketball right now. And guess what? As it always happens, because somebody thought it'd be a great idea to pair at all times, anytime there's a tournament, Marshall and West Virginia. So once again, somebody thought, hey, you know what? Let's pair this Marshall alumni team with this West Virginia alumni team, and thus the basketball tournament set the bracket. So there you go. $1 million tournament, July 5th, ESPN Networks, and Best Virginia faces off against Heard That. Going to be played under quarantine at Nationwide Arena in Columbus, July 4th through the 14th. So we've got basketball. That's the good news. We got basketball. That's coming back. The bad news is somebody, again, thought it would be a great idea to put West Virginia alumni and Marshall alumni not even in the same quadrant. It's, all right, one of you teams are going home right away. We can't have too much West Virginia alumni going on here or Marshall alumni. We can't have too much West Virginia here. We're sending one of you home. It should be fun, though. I'll tell you what, this is going to generate a lot of interest in the state because, again, I mean, you look at Best Virginia's team. I mean, they're loaded. Deshaun Butler's on this team. Juwan Staten's on this team. Kevin Jones on this team. I'm just looking up and down. I don't see where there's a bad player on this team. And then, if you're a Herd fan, you got to love Marshall's alumni team or the team full of Marshall alum and then some. Ryan Taylor. Who doesn't love Ryan Taylor? If you're a Herd fan, you love Ryan Taylor. What about Stevie Browning on this team? He's becoming a mainstay. C.J. Burks on this team. John Elmore on this team. My guy, Rondell Watson on this team. Ott Elmore on this team because this is an Elmore and Elmore production. And then you've got some guys to fill it out, guys they know. So you have Ryan Luther, played at Pittsburgh in Arizona. You have Zach Smith from Texas Tech. You got Ja'Cory Williams from Middle Tennessee State. Little Conference USA flavor going on here. And then you got Chris Coakley from UAB. So Coakley and Williams, little flavor from Conference USA, playing on this team with the brothers Elmore and then some. We're going to talk to John Elmore. He comes on the program here in about 25 minutes or so. He'll be coming on about 5:30. Looking forward to talking to him. Now, I'm going to ask the question. That's my first question. Why Marshall and West Virginia in the first round? Couldn't we just get maybe like a couple rounds in thinking, oh, hey, will they meet? Well, this would be pretty cool if they meet. They got to get through some teams first. Maybe they put them on the opposite side of each other. I mean, because after all, the thing's not right now being controlled by geography. Geography plays nothing in this now. So we're going to talk to, from the basketball tournament here in a few minutes, Jake Pavorsky. We're going to get it right. We're going to find out here when we talk to him here in the next few minutes. I'm going to go with Jake Pavorsky right now until further notice. We didn't get a pronunciation guide here today in the show notes, so we'll just take what we have and run with it. Basketball tournament, going to get a lot of people fired up because this is going to be a great year for them. Now, the circumstances are not great, but the fact that we don't have live sports, hockey's still a ways off. We don't know if we'll get baseball this year. And the NBA, still not sure what that's going to look like. We have golf, we have NASCAR, we have various professional soccer leagues or football leagues. We have that going on right now. So there are things happening, but the four majors, we don't have anything from the four majors just yet. No NBA, no NFL, but of course the NFL just trending along because their schedule hasn't started yet. So they're fine. NBA, they got to get their season finished soon. They got to figure this out, get it going. The NHL, they're moving right along, trying to get this thing concluded, play for the Stanley Cup. Baseball, I don't even know what those guys are thinking. No idea. Some of them maybe just don't want to play this year. And I'm talking more owners because I'm sure the players are like, look, tell us where. Let's go. We want to play. Let's do this. So we'll figure that out as we progress through the weeks and, unfortunately, the months as we continue to deal with the aftermath of a pandemic. But the basketball tournament, that's where we're going to start. So when we come back from break, we're going to talk about this bracket a little bit more. We'll talk from the basketball tournament, Jake Pavorsky, and we'll get that correct pronunciation. I'm just going to own it right now. I don't have it until I get it. We're not going to edit this in post. We're just going to roll with it until we get a correct pronunciation. When we continue with today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It sort of felt like Selection Sunday earlier this afternoon. We've got the bracket for the basketball tournament. We haven't had basketball in too long. We knew that Marshall would have a shot of getting an alumni team in the tournament, and so it felt like we were back to business here, and we get the bracket today, and guess what? Just like a couple of years ago in the NCAA tournament, somebody has a sense of humor because Best Virginia, the West Virginia alumni team, will be facing off in the first round against the Marshall alumni team. I've heard that. And joining us from the basketball tournament, Jake Pavorsky. And Jake, that's got to be my first question. Marshall, West Virginia, come on, that wasn't random. You know better. That was not random.
I wouldn't say it wasn't random. I think at the end of the day, when you take a look at this 24-team field, there are a lot of good teams in the mix here. And you could make a case very easily for those teams to be where they were seated. Some of these things work out a little more organically than you think. But, we sat down as a committee. We looked at the field. We put the bracket together and we kind of realized that, hey, we have this great first round matchup together. Why mess with it? I think it's exciting. I think it's great for the state of West Virginia to be able to showcase, their talent from two great schools on ESPN. And I'm looking forward to seeing who comes out on top.
I am too, but still, you look at that and you're going, okay, Best Virginia, okay, Marshall's going to be there. And you're right, it's going to generate a lot of interest in the state. And West Virginia, both with the Marshall alumni team and, of course, Best Virginia, their alumni team last year, really added a lot of interest and a lot of flavor to last year's basketball tournament. Unfortunately, Charleston, West Virginia doesn't get to play host to some of these games this year with the revised format, but you got a lot of interest from the state and from this region.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It was unfortunate we weren't able to come to Charleston this summer. We were really looking forward to it, being able to play in front of West Virginia, being able to play in front of Marshall fans. We're eager to hopefully be able to finally get that done next summer and hopefully being able to play in front of a sold-out crowd in the Charleston Coliseum. But, the opportunity on national television with no other sports on, regardless, is still a great chance for these programs to showcase all the talent they have and the two totally different styles of play. Marshall with the run and gun offense, West Virginia with their full court pressing style, their lockdown defense. It's a really great matchup and a really great opportunity for the schools to show people what they're made of.
Jake, I kind of like the format that it is evolved to this year. You still have the flavor of sort of maybe the regional matchups, but it's condensed. I'm going to have a long stream of basketball where I haven't had that. Were you guys trying to figure out what would make the best television matchup now that you had to take the fans away from it?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that come into forming a field, especially this year. The first is obviously safety. In terms of talking with all of our health experts, people on the local level, people on the federal level, as well as some of our consultants on staff, we felt 24 teams was the right number where we could put together a really good, exciting tournament spanning over the course of 10 days, while also not having too many people within our bubble to risk everyone's health, of both our players as well as our staff members. And then from there, it's really, there's obviously a talent component that goes into it. I won't say that that's not, a big part of it, but at the same time, we're also looking for 24 teams that are understanding of the situation, that have players that are compliant with some of the rules and guidelines that we need to put in place to keep everyone safe. And those are sort of the factors that we all kind of, put together and decided to build out our field from there.
Now, ESPN put this breakdown of all the teams together, and you look top to bottom and you see what you described earlier. Marshall's going to be a scoring team. West Virginia is going to be a defensive team. And you go top to bottom looking at this bracket, you have probably some of the most diverse basketball teams that you've probably seen in the several years that the basketball tournament has been in place. I mean, you think this is probably, despite everything you've got to go through to get this thing put together, probably some of the best talent, best diversity you've ever seen in style and play?
Yeah, 100%. I think we could have put together our best 64-team field this year, like without a doubt, in the 7 years of doing this. But the fact that we had to condense this field even further, I think has just made these teams even more loaded from top to bottom. I mean, our 24th seeded team, the Jackson, Tennessee Underdogs, was a quarterfinalist last year. It goes to show you the depth and level of talent. And not to mention, between the alumni teams and the styles that they bring from the schools that they played at, as well as some of these other teams that are kind of loaded with NBA talent, guys on the fringes there. In Team CP3, a lot of these guys grew up playing together for Chris Paul's AAU program. Team Hines brings a lot of EuroLeague flavor to TBT on one team. Top to bottom, it is a loaded field, and there are no easy outs in TBT ever, but especially this year. You're going into a really tough, hard-fought battle on day one.
Joining us on the program from the basketball tournament is Jake Pavorsky, and Marshall, West Virginia alumni teams will meet in the first round. The winner, of course, gets the money team, and that's a matchup I want to see, period, no matter which team wins between the Marshall or the West Virginia alumni. Over the years, and especially with the situation we're going through now with the pandemic, the basketball tournament has really turned out to be the summer thing to do, and more so now. We need this tournament more than ever. I mean, you hate to be in this situation with the pandemic, but at the same time, we need this tournament.
It was definitely a priority of our founder, John Mugar, to really see this through and make it happen, because he understood, the necessity to kind of have at least some sort of return to normalcy and the ability to watch live sports and sort of, be able to, for a couple hours be lost and be entertained, with some really, talented, high quality basketball. So that was kind of our driving focus and motivating factor, to really be able to put on a tournament. Obviously, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through in terms of, safety and guidelines and making sure we're putting a lot of things in place to make sure that TBT will be safe. But we're really confident with the plan that we have in place. The state of Ohio is very confident with our plan, as well as our players and the rest of our participants. So we're really excited to be able to play on ESPN, to sort of have that 10-day window. We're really able to own it. We obviously have, a ton of hardcore fans that have followed TBT since the beginning, but the opportunity to be able to play on ESPN in some primetime windows and maybe bring in some new fans and hopefully lock them in as viewers for life is something that's obviously very appealing to us.
I don't want it to sound like I've taken the safety portion for granted. And you mentioned there's a lot that goes into this, and Columbus being a great spot for this. How hard was it just to make sure that you could put everything in place to pull this off? You're doing better than some professional leagues are right now.
Yeah, I think obviously the ability for us to play this in a short time period is really what has made so many states and locations comfortable with trying to bring us in this year. We had 5 or 6 locations that we could have gone to, but Columbus sort of had the most appealing setup in terms of the ability to introduce and maintain our quarantine, our our inner island, as we like to call it, to make sure that all of our guys are safe. So really, that was sort of the most interesting part about going to Columbus and choosing to go there. But the fact that we were able to do this so quickly, we can play basketball, we can test these guys. There's going to be a minimum of 3 tests for each participant, 1 at home, 1 when they enter the site before they go into a 5-day quarantine, and then 1 coming out of the 5-day quarantine. There's a lot of different levels of precautions that we're taking, and some to an extreme. We've had people tell us that maybe we're testing a little too much. We're going to, if any player tests positive while they're in that quarantine period on site, it's going to result in the elimination of not only that player, but their team as a whole, in the hopes of being able to, save the rest of the tournament participants from any potential spread of COVID. So, we are taking things to some extreme, but I think because of our willingness to do that and the willingness to condense this field and fit it in a shorter time frame has made it made it very appealing to the state of Ohio and the city of Columbus to bring us in. Yeah,
that's an interesting point. Not that player is disqualified; the entire team is disqualified. It sends a message that if you're serious about this, you're going to have to make sure you take care of yourself and don't put yourself in a position to stay safe as possible. And if you want to participate, these are the rules.
Without a doubt. I mean, today and yesterday was the start of most teams, 2-week quarantine period leading up to TBT. We have done the best that we can to emphasize to them the importance of wearing masks, of wearing gloves, of washing their hands, of limiting their interactions with non-team members, where humanly possible. So, we've done our best to focus on those things. We're sending out daily questionnaires to players just to check in on them to see if maybe they've come in contact with someone they think has COVID, if they have any symptoms that you would see from someone who has COVID, just to make sure that these guys are all in good shape, are all healthy. And then, in the next week or so, these teams will begin taking their at-home tests, and hopefully they get a clean bill of health and we're able to bring them all in to our site and, hopefully clear them all to play basketball beginning July 4th on ESPN.
Joining us on the program, Jake Pavorsky from the basketball tournament. Marshall alum, West Virginia alum will be facing off against each other. This is going to be probably must-see television for all of us here starting July 4th. I mean, really, you also are getting a primetime spot July 4th through the 14th. How will this run? Will it be nonstop basketball? We're just going to turn ESPN on and just not have to turn away? How will this break down so fans can maybe follow along?
Yeah, so for the first 2 days, which will be the first round of TBT, July 4th and July 5th, we'll have 4 games each day. From there, July 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And our quarterfinal, our round of 16 will be 2 games a day. And then we'll break things down to our quarterfinals and semifinals, as well as our championship game on July 14th. So for those first 2 days in particular, July 4th and 5th, will be nonstop basketball, throughout the whole course of the day. So for a lot of people who are already tuning in, looking forward to these matchups, we're excited to have them. But it'll also be, we're also hopeful to lock in the people who may have just been, flipping through channels, happen to see us on ESPN, get locked in and, end up watching this thing for 10 days straight. We see that as a tremendous opportunity to broaden our audience, to bring in some new fans that may love basketball, but may not necessarily know exactly what TBT is, and wow them with the toughness and the intensity that TBT brings every summer.
Jake, what is it about this tournament that's made it more successful? Because there have been other attempts of doing summer basketball, other tournaments, but it feels like the basketball tournament from day one has really leapfrogged every other attempt. Of course, the purse doesn't hurt. The money definitely adds a little more credibility to it. It's not just fly by night, but still, it just feels like every other attempt at summer basketball or summer basketball tournament has sort of paled in comparison to the basketball tournament.
So I think it's a great question. I think the money was the initial intrigue around TBT. And for first-year participants, it's always, the eye is on the prize. But as guys step in and play in this thing and they realize what the talent level of basketball is like, it's a lot of guys that play in the NBA, have played in the NBA, or on the fringes. I think this year we're going to have a minimum of 35 NBA guys on rosters this year. So it's the talent level, the fact that these guys are always looking for some good run in the summertime. There's no better place to find that in TBT. There's an intensity, there's a toughness element, that really only, compares to the NBA Finals and NCAA March Madness. And that may sound crazy, but you ask anyone who's played in this thing, and they'll mimic that same sentiment. They really admire and find the intensity of this thing so interesting. You got guys laying out for loose balls, fighting really hard until the end. It's something that you really just don't see many places. And I think once guys entered CBT, they also, there's something about it that's very gravitating to them, and they want to play in it every single summer. There's also the camaraderie aspect of it, the introduction of alumni teams and the proliferation of them over several years, the opportunity for guys to represent the programs that they care so much about, to reconnect with their coaching staff and the fan bases there, the people that have followed them, for so many years, especially during their formative years. I think it is essentially, been one of the most motivating factors for a lot of these guys on Ohio State, on Marquette, on now obviously on West Virginia and Marshall as well. These guys want to be able to wear the school colors, to represent the school, and to make people proud. I think that means a lot to them.
Joining us on the program, the basketball tournament bracket announced today, and Jake Pavorsky is with us to talk a little bit more about it. And you mentioned earlier, if a team has one positive test, the team's eliminated, but you've got something in place for that. You've got standby teams as well. How many do you have? And they're going through the same thing right now with the hopes of playing. I'm sure you don't want to get to that point where you have to bring them in, but still, you've got that as a backup.
Yeah, we have two standby teams. D2, which is a D2 alumni teams made up of players that all played at the D2 level and are now playing at high levels overseas or in the G League, as well as playing for Jimmy V, which is a collection of a lot of guys who are playing overseas, and they are partnered with the V Foundation, who obviously does a lot of work with ESPN. So really two very talented teams, two that could very easily fit into our field in a normal year and certainly win some games. So we're keeping those two teams on standby. They will be in our quarantine. They'll be subject to the same protocols as every other team. At the end of the day, we can't rule out the possibility that these two teams might be called into action. And if they do, it'll be as simple as slotting those teams into whatever spot was vacated and continuing with the tournament. But, we're hopeful we'll be able to just play with these 24 teams as is. We love the field as constructed, but we're confident in these two best standby teams as well. And know that regardless of what happens, the level of intensity and the caliber of play will be incredibly high.
Our guest from the basketball tournament, Jake Pavorsky. The basketball tournament taking place July 4th through the 14th on ESPN, the family of networks. And, of course, the matchup we're all going to be watching, at least locally, will be Best Virginia versus Herd That. Before we let you go, of course, this basketball tournament also relies on fan support. So how do fans get involved? Because I know that's a big component of this.
Yeah, it always has been. This has been a tournament, by fans for the fans. So anyone who is interested in getting involved with TBT can go on our website and can click to register to become a fan of the team that they think wins it all. Obviously, locally, I imagine there's going to be a lot of people listening to this who will go and sign up for Best Virginia and Herd That. All the fans of the team that wins TBT this year will split a $50,000 prize evenly. So an opportunity to, not only have some skin in the game watching your favorite players, but to potentially win some cash on your own. So go to thetournament.com, look through the field, look through the rosters, see what teams interest you and the team that you think is the most likely to win TBT. Click on register to be a fan, fill out an account, and, you could be walking home with a little bit of cash come July 14th.
Jake, good luck with this. I'm excited. A lot of fans in the area are excited. And thanks for the gift of putting these two teams together, because we can talk about this for weeks now. Thank you. That's a gift to us.
Our pleasure. Enjoy the tournament, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, sir. That is Jake Pavorsky from the basketball tournament. From Herd That, John Elmore up next here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
The Drive with Paul Swann. Marshall Athletic Director Mike Hamrick. He knows.
Paul's the best.
On ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Welcome back to today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. We just got off the phone from the basketball tournament, Jake Pavorsky. Let's get in the program now. One of the leaders of Herd That, one of the all-time greats at Marshall University, and I know that never gets old, John Elmore with us on the program. And John, I had to ask the question to the basketball tournament, It wasn't random. They knew. They put you and West Virginia together in the same bracket, same day. First game you got to play. You got to play those guys. Were you smiling? Were you laughing? Were you like, what was your reaction when you saw that?
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, man. I had a feeling. People had been talking about it. The two West Virginia schools, the in-state rivalry. I knew it was going to happen, man.
You excited?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Several of the guys on our team, don't forget the last time we played them and they knocked us out of the tournament. So we're going in looking for some sweet revenge, chip on our shoulder. I know it's different guys on both teams, but we're going in with the revenge in mind, and our goal is to win the whole thing. So it's a great honor to make the top 24 teams, over 125 applied, but our goal is to win the $1 million.
Yeah, that's a big point there. Not everybody got to make the tournament this year, and you're one of the teams that gets in, and that says a lot about your efforts and what has been happening over the last few years. I mean, West Virginia, the state itself, has become a hotbed for this tournament.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, I'm sad that because of COVID and everything going on that Charleston is no longer a host city for this year. I think that would have been sweet to match up with them in Charleston in front of 10,000 plus fans. But, you know, going to Columbus, playing in a game with no fans in the gym versus the West Virginia alumni team, it's going to be a heck of a game, man. It's on ESPN in the middle of the summer. Whoever wins the tournament gets $1 million+. So it's better than what a lot of people are doing throughout the summer, in my opinion.
Did you see what ESPN said when they were breaking down all the teams in the tournament?
I haven't read up on that yet.
Yeah, it said if you're looking for scoring, Herd That is the group to watch. The Marshall alumni team might not be blessed with an easy draw, but it won't be lacking entertainment value thanks to the presence of 2018 NCAA tournament hero John Elmore and CJ Burks.
No, man, that's awesome. I mean, like you said, I think that's one of the main draws that got us into the tournament is, you know, on paper we might not look the best, or talent-wise or size-wise we might not be the best, but at the same time, the brand of basketball that we're bringing to the table, the D'Antoni system, playing fast, shooting threes, alley-oops, people want to see that. That's going to be great for ratings, and I think with that style of play, we're capable of winning the whole thing. So I think the tournament had a pretty good understanding of that, and now you throw an in-state rivalry in there, I think ratings will be phenomenal.
Okay, now you look at West Virginia's roster, and they've got a talented roster. You look at your roster, I mean, come on. I mean, you get Ryan Taylor. Everyone loves Ryan Taylor. You got probably one of the hardest working guys I've ever met in Rondell Watson. But you got Chris Coakley there, man. UAB, I gotta root for him now. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah. So this year, going towards the Marshall alumni thing, when we were getting the roster and adding guys, our foundation, we wanted it to be a Marshall core group. So we had 5, we added Rondell for 6, and then we just kept thinking, like, man, we need to make sure that we have the size and athleticism. You know, being a small school, you don't always have a ton of guys that are still playing after college, and we're fortunate to have that. But we just kept thinking, where should we go for some size and athleticism? And thought about guys we had played. Some of the guys on the team had relationships with these guys, and we reached out to Chris Coakley, who's a former first-team all-conference guy at UAB. He just destroyed us the past few years when we played him. So we added him. Zach Smith, who played at Texas Tech when they made their run, not to the Final Four, but the year before that, he was in the college slam dunk contest. So you can imagine how that type of athleticism will fit in our offense. Then we got Ryan Luther, who averaged a double-double in the ACC at Pittsburgh, grad transferred, played his final year at Arizona. And then everybody remembers Ja'Cory Williams as well. He was Commerce Player of the Year, star at Middle Tennessee when they won a tournament game. So we added a lot of depth, athleticism, and talent that we didn't have in the past couple of years, which will be fun.
How tough has it been? Because right now you've got to go under quarantine, and that means you guys are going to lock down. What's that process like? Is it locking down totally from your family? You know, how are you guys handling this to make sure that you test negative when you guys have to test for the time that they can eliminate you?
You know, it's been really tough with all the precautions and how careful everybody has to be. We're starting training camp on Friday. That means we're flying everybody in that's out of town. Everybody will be up in a hotel room. So, like you said, it is, quote, a fully quarantined tournament because one positive test or negative, that's doctor stuff, that's over my head, but one failed test and the whole team is disqualified. So it's been really tough from a financial sponsorship standpoint because we've got to get hotel rooms for 10-plus guys, coaching staff. We've got to get gym time. Most gyms are closed, so we're having to get a private facility somewhere. I mean, it's just been really hectic. We're blessed to have had some great sponsors, some former Marshall people, Joe DeBurgess, who played at Marshall, great guy. Cam Brown, big Marshall guy as well. Guys like that have really helped out the team a lot. We're still looking if anybody's interested in helping out or sponsoring the team. We really appreciate it. But like you said, it is tough because we have to lock everything down. We've got to get tested for the virus, multiple rounds of testing. We're talking about doing a team test before we even get the TBT certified test. So we go in with a pretty good idea. And all this stuff isn't cheap. So we really had to work hard. But, I mean, I'm excited, and I think this thing is going to kick off Friday, and we're going to see where it goes.
You mentioned sponsorship, and that's been an interesting component of this tournament. Fan support, people getting behind you. So if someone's listening right now wants to help out, where do you direct them?
Just get in touch with me. One of my social media pages, my email, elmore33@gmail.com. Anything, just get in contact with me. Anything helps. We've had restaurants want to come out and say they want to sponsor team meals, stuff like that. So with everybody kind of being on lockdown, we've got to get catering, meals covered, hotels covered, flight expenses, gym time. I mean, the list is on and on. So we've been lucky to have some very great people want to be involved with the team, and we're still looking, but we're just lucky to be in the tournament, and we're excited to enjoy the whole process.
How hard is it going to be? Because you're a father to be. I know that's going to be tough on you to go through this, and I know you have everyone's blessing you're doing this, but still, that's got to be tough on you personally, knowing. I mean, it's for a lot of guys, I'm sure.
No, you're right 100%. We've got two guys on the team, I believe, that have young kids. One has a kid that's a few months old, and one has a kid that's like 8 or 9 months old. And Father's Day is coming up. So we're trying to have guys commit to training camp, miss Father's Day. They're going to have to be away from their wife and kids, or their girl and kids. I mean, sacrifices are having to be made. And, I mean, we're very appreciative of the group of guys we have, all great people. Genuinely want to see each other win and succeed. So, I mean, that's what it's going to take. We're going to all have to be on the same page. We're all going to have to sacrifice. And, I mean, the question you ask yourself is it worth doing all that with a chance to win over $1 million+ to split as a team? And most people have said, yes, it is. So we're excited. But like you said, there's definitely some sacrifices, time and family time that goes into this.
Okay, now here's the important question. Of course, your brother, Odd Elmore, he is going to be the general manager of this team. Is he the general manager coach? Is that going to be John Elmore as the coach? How's that working here?
I think he's more of like a Jackie Moon role, GM, player, coach, promoter, social media guy. I mean, I think he's kind of covering all faucets. But no, I mean, we're all looking forward to it. He's going to play. He played last year. We're going to need him to knock down some shots, but we've got a lot of depth and a lot of talent, so we're excited. Our coaching staff is my dad, Tommy Orchid, local guy. He played at West Virginia Tech and University of Charleston, runs Mullen Plumbing in West Virginia. So very fortunate to have them. Chris Duhan, former Marshall assistant coach, is going to help in training camp and kind of get everybody in shape and on the same page, implementing the Marshall style.
Are you staying away from Jared West because that kid he's got some interest in the other camp? Are you staying away from that guy?
Man, we are not giving him any inside stuff. I mean, he might know a few of our plays, but we're changing the names, all of that, because he's pretty informed on what we want to do, and he's got some ties to the West Virginia team. I hear his dad's coaching West Virginia, so I don't know who he's going to root for, man, and I'm interested to hear his answer because, I mean, several of his former teammates are on this team, so I don't know, Jared. Be careful, man.
Oh, I already know the answer because I had him on a few weeks ago, and he indicated the money. Dad, wow. The money. Yeah, he went money and dad, family.
Wow. Yeah. What about your Marshall family, Jared? That's what want you to think about that, Jared.
I mean, we'll go back and verify on the podcast. We've got it recorded, but yeah, I put him on the spot, and he's like, he loves you guys, but at the end of the day, Dad, the money, I guess he was. You wouldn't think you would sell your brothers out for $1 million, right?
No, I totally understand. Jared's a great dude, great player. I understand the family connection and the money. Like I was saying, that $1 million, that speaks to people.
Joining us on the program, John Elmore, of course, the basketball tournament coming up. It'll start July 4th. Heard that will be July 5th against Best Virginia. And then the winner, which will be you, will be taking on the money team. That's a team I just want to get knocked out, period, just because. Just because. I mean,
yeah, I know. They're a talented team, man. And they have Devin Williams, West Virginia player, too. So that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I looked at the bracket and I'm like, okay, let me circle one team I don't like, and it's the money team just because of the background there. But you're probably not amazed, but this thing has really taken off over the years. And as we talked about earlier, you're in the tournament, heard that, one of a handful of teams that maybe get to do this on a yearly basis. There are so many quality teams that didn't get in this tournament. And this isn't just some fly-by-night tournament. I mean, we've seen tournaments come and go over the last few years. This one's really stayed. It's stuck. And the talent is just so good.
No, and I agree with what you're saying, because I don't think most people realize how big time of an event it is and how legit it is. You're talking about, just looking at the rosters this year. Usually it's 64 teams, but just looking at the roster this year, you have guys that are essentially college basketball legends. You've got guys that are playing overseas that are some of the greatest overseas players of all time. And then you've got former NBA guys that have been, quote, all-stars or had great NBA careers that are playing in it now. So, this is the best of the best that are playing in this game, because, when there's that type of money on the line, it brings out some talent. So I don't think people understand or realize how good the level of basketball is and the type of players that are playing in it. And like you said, there's a reason it's sticking around and getting bigger and bigger. They just signed, I believe, a 7-year deal with ESPN to keep covering the tournament. So where it started to where it is now to where it's going to go, it's just been really impressive.
And a great part of this tournament is you're going to be the only major basketball going on at that time. And I'm sure this is going to be full of scouts looking at this. This is going to be a great showcase for guys maybe to get a second chance, to get a second look at eventually making the NBA. I know there's always a scout in the crowd somewhere, and so this could be your moment. This could be anyone's moment.
Mm-hmm. First live basketball on television. There's not a whole lot of sports going on right now, so putting basketball back on ESPN with the tournament, I know they're taking a ton of precautions, but that's how serious they are about having the tournament, how big of an event it is, and playing on ESPN in the middle of summer with a bunch of dudes you went to college with and guys isn't a bad way to spend some of your summer.
Joining us on the program, one of the all-time greats at Marshall University and member of Heard That, John Elmore. Good luck, man. I'm looking forward to seeing that first game. I know we all are, and hopefully we're talking about this all the way to the championship.
Thanks, my guy. Go Heard That, baby.
It's John Elmore. You heard it. Go Heard That. We will have more on the program when we continue. I'm Paul Swann. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Welcome back to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We are presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Before we go today, we want to remind you that there's a guy right now that needs to be voted into the College Football Hall of Fame. The ballot is out today. And, of course, one guy that is on the list that every time I get a chance to vote for, I do, is Chris Parker. So ballot comes out today. Chris Parker is possibly going to the Hall of Fame if enough people vote him in. Why should you vote him in? Well, I'm going to make this pitch to everybody I know that has a vote. Only a first-team All-American pick, member of the 1992 National Championship team, led Marshall back to the national title game in 93 and 95. Of course, 93, 95 runner-ups still. 31 games with at least 100 yards rushing. Finished with 5,924 yards rushing and 68 touchdowns. So Chris Parker, if you gave the ball to Chris Parker, good things happened. And so the ballot comes out today from the National Football Foundation, and he's on the ballot. It's a big deal to be on the ballot for the first place. Huge deal. But at the same time, if you're in this, that means you've got a lot of competition and a lot of quality candidates. And if you're going to talk about someone I think deserves his spot, it's Chris Parker. Now, there's some guys on this list that, you look down and they're of course, Chris would get in because at the time he was in 1AA. He would get in because they're separate divisions. So Chris would get into that division, but still, you're in the Hall of Fame. If you look at the ballot, top to bottom, you scroll down the list, and one guy that I think definitely deserves to get in is Aaron Beasley from West Virginia. You look at what he did, only a consensus first-team All-American, led the nation in interceptions in 1994, had 10, two-time first-team All-Big East selection, led West Virginia to an undefeated regular season and the 1993 Big East title, had 19 career interceptions, holds 2 of the top 5 single-season performances in Mountaineer history. I mean, here's a guy who, if you're voting, I'm probably going to check his name. Just scrolling down the list here. I'm trying to see. I know there are so many names that I'm familiar with, and you're probably familiar with as well. So if you're interested, go to footballfoundation.org. You can see the ballot there. You can see some of these guys here. But Chris Parker, definitely, I am going to, once again, make that selection. I vote for the West Virginia guys. Always do. Not just the Marshall guys. I try to vote for the guys in state, maybe from the state or who played in state, because if they're good enough, I'm going to give them a vote. I'm going to support those guys. I mean, come on. I mean, we got some good football going on here in the state, and I try to keep an eye on all the players that are from the state or played in the state. But definitely Chris Parker, he's a guy that up for consideration. One of the best all-time at Marshall University, and hopefully we can get him in to the Hall of Fame. That would be cool, wouldn't it? I think so. And that's going to do it for this edition. I want to thank our producer, Spencer Dupuis. For Spencer, I'm Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in. And if you missed any part of today's show, you can go to our social media channels. That's right. You can find us on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast. For Spencer, I'm Paul. Thanks for tuning in. Good night, everyone.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.